The pornographic levers that were pulled um, clearly showed that the attackers behind the AIDS attack were multicultural. I mean, the telltale clip, which was put together by Richard Starkey's Alliance of Film Directors, which was international and traced back to Sergei Eisenstein's involvement with Disney. The telltale clip, which is an alias Little Boy channel of YouTube, clearly shows that black involvement was central to Two Virgins Pussy Ball. So there was a multicultural decision in the way that they executed it through a cinema oriented media heist of our perceived reality, a cinema oriented perceived reality heist that traces back to the days of the Italian futurists' involvement with D.W. Griffith and Ouspensky's fourth way intelligence system when Houdini, Prokofiev, and Picasso were around in 1916. It gave rise to Bly Sanders. There's a book about him called The Invention of Life. His idea of cinema of the real. It was fed into by Robert Penn Warren's um, idea of using fiction to tell the stories of historic people, the way he told the story of Huey Long and All the King's Men, which was, and Warren, of course, was then used as a signifier of the Warren Commission, where Dan Rather announced what we would rather believe about what happened. So the cinema heist of perceived reality allied the victims, immediately subordinated them to Yoko Ono in Hitler's Revenge because John Lennon pulled a Houdini, made it look like he was killed. Roger Waters and Pink Floyd and others from the East India Company heritage of Britain could announce that Hitler's Axis revenge was retribution for Lenin. And it took the form of Yoko Ono and the puppets. They smiled as the puppets danced, so to speak. So what we see in the way that they used me, you have a Tammy Simon and a dacoit of the Dalai Lama with Lesbian for Magical Religion studio in Boulder, Colorado, who came on to me at Swarthmore College after Leslie Katz had a long lesbian relationship with me. And she fed into the Mysterian circuitry by looking like Lenin, only being feminine, like his anima, or his feminine aspect. So you begin to see the way the Opium War and Disney morphed together. The East India Company was into the Opium Wars, and they had Bayer stamped on their ancient logs for Bayerlich, which was the Bavarian Illuminati library site for their logs. And of course, they made children's aspirin and the Zyklon B gas that was used to kill the Jews of Europe. So Bayer, the East India Company, Pink Floyd, the Walrus, Lazarus, Houdini, whatever you want to call this operation of Axis revenge, drew upon the mythological mindset. This was the reality beyond reality that they were arguing to justify from Ouspensky Circle, where Flippy Tune, Robert Fripp hung out, the Gurdjieff clock. And Bly Sanders used to talk about using, or his critics of Bly Sanders would evaluate Cubists' idea of using alterations in reality through cinema to convey a higher idea of reality. So these sophisticates mongered that they were over using a heist on perceived reality to present a higher truth, which of course is mystical stuff. The Eurasian trip, and they use these images from their years of the opium warriors in Eurasia, from mythological texts to create a God theory. So they're not lying about reality, they're presenting a theory of God. Of course, they're psychopaths. They kill people and take hostages. They're ripper hatters over a penny in Seattle. They set up Pussy Bowl and killed my father at Pitt. They rob museums for $8 million and still get away with giving me Parkinson's. I mean, the brutality, the brutal. I mean, it's just getting started. It's already pretty bad. You know, is typical of their criminal ferociousness. And of course, they subordinated all the victims to them by lying with their perceived reality heists through cinema and so forth. I mean, it's far too complicated and obviously set up to have just happened. There've been an intercept. Penis Gabriel forged the impinged persona about me on and played the entire script without even having to look at it. I mean, they obviously knew it was there. It's just silliness to say that they found it. Like what Meg Now Wen was a circuit boarder for Hitler, Reagan, and this Kennedy killing system of gestures. I mean, they topped it off by killing Cersei, and then Bob Dylan runs around New York with his new song, JFK Had to Pay, for the croquet, Reducer, Yoko Ono, I mean, who everybody's like subordinated to because of the London Houdini. It paralyzed everybody. They couldn't do anything but say, kill the innocent, kill the innocent. It'll make us feel better. So therapy killings started to emerge, and then they were ripping people over a penny in Seattle and demanding tribute from cosmic celebrity goddesses to the Obama pecking order business of two virgins pussy ball. I mean, it's pretty putrid, but what they were doing was building cosmic arc, with the mark of Zorro, we're better, and they play you. I mean, they just hit each side. They clear the air. When something goes wrong over here, they do it over here. Then they do it over. It's the same agency hitting all sides. It's more the double homicide. It's triplicate homicide. But they're very vicious. I mean, they don't care about anything. But they say they're building a new age world. They're building a new age world. They're going to save the earth. Well, they're the ones who imperiled the earth. If you look at Flame Over Africa, the man who tortured me and held me hostage as a child, refused to allow me to go to Pittsburgh Public School. And Pittsburgh Public School was advised I was being kidnapped by men who were going to kill me. And they just all laughed it off. Jimmy Queerball called it a provincial noise. Well, these people who made Flame Over Africa, who admitted in their words that they imprisoned me. They took me hostage as a child. We're doing covers for the Croquet. I mean, Yoko Ono. And they St. Louis Post Dispatch gets chummy with them. Hey, Penis Gabriel needs a favor, finds them in the bar. There are doctors who own the bars in Seattle poison me in the heart on top of dopamine inhibitors. I mean, when I finally escaped them, I became an honor student and graduated from college, Phi Theta Kappa. Did that make any difference to them? No, they had me hostage at Sound Mental Health and were forcing dopamine inhibitors on me, take me into custody for protesting a ripper murder, and then they poisoned me in the heart so that I now have Parkinson's disease. You know, And they're saying, oh, well, if you get a settlement, you have to give it to the tribe. I mean, it's a cosmic all group of people who are super rich. And I call them leapfrog oligarch cahooters because they cahoot. They're in cahoots and they leapfrog from behind the scenes. Behind, they have friends in Russia, they have friends in Melon. They set up a parameter of the Ukraine to, say, what is it you want? You want to do battle? Whereabouts? After they poison me in the mouth and blitzkrieg us with COVID. It's population control they're employing with Jay Inslee. I mean, somehow or another, um, Russia got into Tacoma and built this alliance here, but it was Jay Inslee's crowd that gave prior indications of killing seriously. So I mean, they say it's symbolic. The Penis Sinfield said the the voodoo doctor trumps a symbolic American, and whilst planting uh, Extinction Rebellion. I mean, they've been in their drone centers of crystal ballery for decades.